subscribing or liking this video and leaving a comment. I just wanted to say thank you to all of those people who make a point to stop in and say hello. I see you, and I'm so happy that you have chosen to follow along and keep up with me and my channel. It's truly been such a wonderful experience being on YouTube and getting to connect with so many of you. So, for today's case, I decided to switch it up. We are going to be doing a missing 411 case instead of true crime because I know our last true crime video was very heavy and I wanted to take a break from that. So, in case you are unfamiliar, missing 411 refers to the hundreds of people that go missing in America's national parks and forests. And today's missing 411 story has a happy ending, fortunately, unlike most of these cases. So it's a very baffling case though, and you will see what I mean when we get into it. Also, I have a problem with picking at my lip, so please excuse that. Yeah, whenever I get anxious about anything, I have a bad habit of picking at it, so if you can see that, I'm sorry. This case also has some paranormal aspects to it. Nothing super scary, but I also found that interesting, so let's get into it. Today, we will be talking about Haley Zega. Haley Zega was 6 years old when she got lost in Ozark National Forest in the Buffalo Wilderness of Arkansas. She was missing for 2.5 days from April 29th to May 1st of 2001. Haley was born in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and her grandparents on her mom's side wanted to get her familiar with nature because she was born in the city. So they decided to take her on a hike into the mountains. She says that they had a love for nature and they wanted her to experience it and be able to appreciate it from an early age. Ozark National Forest was about an hour and a half from where she lived, and it was a very remote location. So they wanted to take her to a point called Whitaker Point, which is a fairly treacherous hike. And at this point, there are 200-foot bluffs that go off the mountain. So if you were to fall, that would be fatal, right? And so they started their hike, and the woods were very dense. And while she was hiking with her grandparents, she started to get tired and became very distracted. She saw a waterfall that really piqued her interest, and she wanted to go explore and go down to this waterfall. But to get to the waterfall, this waterfall would be to descend this tree. So her grandparents told her no because it was very dangerous, and they said that she could just look at the waterfall from where they were. And they said that she was too young, so maybe one day when she was older, she could come back and go down to this waterfall. But she was not having any of this, and so she sat down on a rock and she told them that she was not moving unless they picked her up and carried her. And so after a couple minutes of her grandparents trying to negotiate with her, she decided to be stubborn and would not get off this rock. And so her grandparents did that thing where they're like, oh, we're gonna leave you, right? And so they began to start slowly walking away to try and scare her, because, you know, you can assume that if you leave the child, they are going to get up and follow you, right? And so they begin slowly walking away, and she doesn't get up to follow. Eventually, she lost sight of her grandparents, and she did eventually get up to catch up with them, but she got lost because she went down the wrong trail. And so she began to walk deeper and deeper into the woods. And keep in mind, this is a very dangerous hike. Like, they were very high up in the mountains, so she eventually managed to get to the Buffalo River with the help of an imaginary friend. And we will talk about this a little bit later. She made a plan to follow along the river, which she knew led to a road that had a gas station beside it, where she planned to call her parents. However, after following this river all day, she was still lost. And so when nighttime came, she found a large rock in the river to sleep on. She said this seemed the most logical because it was all woods, so she thought people would be unsuccessful finding her in the woods, where in a river it's very open. So she said she was freezing cold making her way through this river to get onto this rock, and she tried to sleep. She said she remembers hearing helicopters overhead, but she was never spotted. In the morning, she got up and continued to walk along the river, and she found a cave by the river which she used for shade, because in the daytime it got extremely hot, but at nighttime, especially because she was soaking wet from being in the river, it was freezing. So she goes to this cave for shade, and she ends up sleeping somewhere around there again. And on day 3, so this 6-year-old has been missing for 3 days by herself in the wilderness. So day 3, she wakes up and continues following the river. She's calling for help. She's repeating her parents' phone number to make sure she won't forget it. And she's throwing sand in the air to try and get the attention of anybody around or in the air. And she says that she was scared to eat anything in the forest like berries, and she was scared to drink the river water. So she was extremely dehydrated and extremely malnourished. So she says she begins to hallucinate, and she mentions one of these hallucinations, for example, being a pack of flamingos. I'm pretty sure they're not called a pack, but I forget what they're called, so let me know. Once she became exhausted, she laid down and was found by two men who were not with the search party. These were just two men that were going on a hike. So these two men told her to stay put because these men had seen the search party soon before. It's 3:30 a.m. I'm not sure why my dogs are up barking, but I apologize. So these men, after telling her to stay put, they left and found the search party. And they told the search party, hey, I think we found the missing little girl you're looking for. And the crazy thing is, the search party actually denied them and turned them down because they claimed that where they were saying they saw this little girl was way too far from where she could have traveled from her starting point. When kids go missing, they map out the vicinity where they believe the child would be able to travel, and she was miles away from this estimate, so they just said nope, can't be relevant, and turned them away. So these men get a mule, not the animal mule, but the farm off-road vehicle mule, and they go back and they find her again because she stayed where they told her to, and they got her on this mule and they brought her back home. And now we're going to talk about some crazy facts. So, one, I have to sneeze. I just sneezed, I'm sorry. So, some crazy facts. One, she traveled several miles, a 6-year-old did, in dense forest area. And she was wearing only a gray t-shirt with shorts and tennis shoes. So that is impressive. And now let's talk about her imaginary friend. She says that from the time she got lost, so this friend most likely was not a hallucination because she saw her from the moment she got lost back at the waterfall. She says this little friend's name was Alicia, and Alicia kept her company for the 3 days she was missing. Alicia was 4 years old, had long dark hair, and was wearing a hoodie, and she carried a flashlight. Haley said that she was never one to have imaginary friends as a child, so this was just a very crazy experience for her. Alicia helped guide her through the woods to the river, and she describes Alicia as a calming presence. She even helped Haley navigate the only safe way down these 200-foot bluffs, because remember, they were very high up during this hike. And this imaginary friend led her to the only safe trail down this mountainside. a lot of speculation as to who Alicia was, but Haley says that she does not want to define her or label her. Their family has been to psychics who don't even have answers, but there's been speculation. So, the paranormal theory, which I find interesting, is based off of a murder that happened 20 years, exactly 20 years before Haley went missing. And in April of 1978, a little girl was actually murdered in the same woods at the same spot by a cult whose leader was a 17-year-old boy who claimed to be a prophet of God. I couldn't find many details about this, but people apparently like to think that this little girl's spirit was Alicia, and that her ghost spirit, whatever you want to say, helped lead Haley to safety, which is super bittersweet and interesting. So people are saying it's a ghost, it's a spirit, and it's this little girl that was unfortunately killed in the same place. The next most common theory is a phenomenon called the third man phenomenon, which is an experience that people have. So, in psychology, it's said that when someone is experiencing extreme adrenaline, like in need of survival, the brain can actually hallucinate another person with you. And I've seen this to be extremely true in like dramatic car accidents, for example. Stories of people saying they were alone when they got into their accident, but somebody came and pulled them out of the car, lifted the car off of them, even though they were alone and had no means of getting help. So I just find this theory extremely interesting because, like, what if that's true, you know? The brain is an extremely intricate and magnificent thing, you know? So it is possible that she could have just hallucinated this little girl. But I find those stories interesting. The one about the third man phenomenon. Others say that it was a fairy or an alien even. I saw someone say an alien. But yeah. Despite this incident, Haley says that she still adores being in the woods and traveling and being in nature despite her experience. She said that she would not consider herself with having lasting, I think I worded that wrong. She says she does not believe that she has lasting effects or trauma from this incident. She just